Alright, populations and samples is our first video here. And what we need to do basically, it is unfortunately a vocabulary lesson, but it's stuff we really just have to get to know. What we're trying to learn is basically the meaning of four terms that pop up pretty continuously throughout our study of statistics. One of them is this term population, and its counterpart, the sample. One of them is this term parameter, and its counterpart, a statistic. And we put these definitions or these concepts in the context of an example, a survey. So Associated Press, GfK, surveyed 1,001 American adults selected at random and asked them the following. In general, do you support, oppose, or neither support nor oppose the healthcare reforms that were passed by Congress in March? In other words, Obamacare. And the big picture here is I usually like to ask at this point, well, why do we care what these 1,001 American adults think? There's 300 million American adults out there. And part of the reason we care is in fact that those 1,001 American adults, if they are selected strategically, which APGFK does in fact select them strategically by a random sampling model, if that's the case, then these are adults that are hopefully going to represent a much larger population that we're much more interested in. Namely, we think these 1,001 American adults and their opinion is going to be representative of the entire adult population of the U.S. So a picture of these concepts here. That group of 1,001 that we actually get to look at, the ones we actually get to look at and talk to, these are the sample. This group you actually get to look at. The group that we are interested in is the population. Okay, so in this case, it is all American adults. We're interested really in what all American adults think as a population, and not just this little group of 1,001. So the population is the large group of people, places, or things that we're actually interested in. The sample is the small group of people, places, or things that we actually get to look at. Now, when we look at these things, we're describing them usually by some sort of numerical summary. For example, what proportion of the population supports Obamacare? What is say the mean or average age of adults in this population? What is the proportion of our 1,001 adults that we actually got to talk to that supports Obamacare? What is their mean age? Okay? When we are talking about things that describe a sample, numbers that describe or summarize a sample, they are called statistics. When we talk about numbers that describe a population, they are called parameters. Okay, so in our case, again, the population, that large group that we're actually interested in, was all adults in the USA. The small group we actually get to look at is the 1,001 adults that we select at random. A parameter of interest is the percentage of this population, American adults, who opposed Obamacare. Or maybe it's the percentage who supported it, or the percentage who didn't have an opinion. But we have a percentage that we happen to be interested in. It's unknown and unknowable because the group of people was so huge. But we estimate it at 41%. How would we estimate it at 41%? Well, if you happen to have a sample that's well chosen, we believe that that small group of people, places, or things in the sample is an appropriate tool to use to describe what's going on in the population. We think it is representative of the population. So if 41% of our sample believe that Obamacare is a bad thing, that would be evidence to suggest that in fact 41% of our population does. But it's important to keep track, keep straight what we're looking at. So the statistic is the proportion of people in our sample who oppose Obamacare. The parameter of interest is the proportion of people in the population, or the proportion of all American adults who oppose Obamacare. Okay? So in summary, population and sample are groups of people, places, or things. Population is the large group that we're actually interested in. Sample is the small group that we actually get to look at. Parameters and statistics are numbers describing those groups. So parameter describes the population, the two P's go together. A statistic describes the sample, the two S's go together. So population and parameter are the group of people, places, things, and the description of that group that are what we actually are interested in. But it's a group usually that's way too large to look at. The sample and the statistics are about this small group of people, places, or things that we actually get to look at that we hope is representative of what's going on in the population.